Alrighty, I think the be quiet is on, the air conditioner is off. I think we're ready to record today's episode. And I got the magic curtain all the way to the edge of the screen this time. Alrighty, here we go. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for August 28th. August 28th is the 240th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 241st in leap years, with 125 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is Dysarthria. Dysarthria. Dysarthria is a noun, and I was a little surprised by its definition. I thought it would be related to bones or joints, like arthritis, and I guess in a way it sort of is, according to when this word first came into use. That's what they thought caused this condition. But let's talk about this right now. Dysarthria is a difficulty in articulating words. It's a speech disorder that manifests in weakness in oral musculature due to some disease, injury, or disorder of the central nervous system. Interestingly, the term does come from the root words dys, meaning dysfunctional or impaired, and arth, meaning joint. Only rather than referring to arthritic joints, it refers to impairment of the motor skills required for speaking. So, in communicating, you need to know what you want to say. You need to find the words to say, and then you need to turn those words into sound, as in speaking. Simply put, when a person has difficulty with the physical ability to turn words into sounds, that's dysarthria, a motor speech disorder where the muscles we use for verbal communication are either weakened or the person has trouble controlling the movement of those muscles. It's usually caused by brain damage from stroke, head trauma, a tumor, or a degenerative neurological disease like Parkinson's or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Dysarthria is usually considered a chronic condition, but depending on the cause, one might be able to see improvement with treatment and therapy. First known use of the word dysarthria is in the 1870s. Dysarthria. The word dysarthria was suggested by @TRamsire on YouTube. Thanks, Teresa. And if you have a word you'd like us to examine in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll get it on the list and take a look at it. And with that, German-born British astronomer and composer William Herschel discovered a new moon of Saturn on August 28, 1789. This moon is called Enceladus, named after a giant from Greek mythology by that name. The moon Enceladus is the sixth largest of Saturn's many moons. So far, Saturn has 146 moons with confirmed orbits, and there are thousands more. Saturn's moons vary in size from larger than the planet Mercury to as small as a sports arena. By the way, in case you haven't noticed, Earth scientists have a practice of naming celestial bodies after mythological characters. Enceladus, in this case, as I mentioned, is a character from Greek mythology, a giant, the offspring of Gaia, Earth, and Uranus, the sky. He was the traditional opponent of Athena. In one version of the myth, Athena conquers Enceladus, and in another version, Zeus conquers him. Either version of the myth likely has Enceladus buried under the island of Sicily, or more specifically under the volcano of Mount Etna. It's a fascinating tale, all this about Enceladus, but the real story today is the discovery of a moon of Saturn that has been named after him. On August 28th, there began the strongest geomagnetic storm on record to strike the Earth. Caused by a coronal mass ejection from the Sun, the storm is known as the Carrington event, after Richard Carrington, one of the astronomers who observed and recorded it. The resulting geomagnetic storm created strong auroral displays much farther from the poles than one might see them ordinarily, nearly to the equator. It also caused anomalous behavior of and serious damage to telegraph systems. For example, the line connections sparked and caught fire, and in some cases, telegraph operators received electric shocks, and some telegraph operators could even continue to send and receive messages even though they had disconnected their power supplies. We almost got zinged with a similar event in 2012 when there was a coronal mass ejection every bit as strong as the Carrington event, but the aim wasn't quite as direct. It did hit a satellite, but the satellite was far enough away from the Earth as to not be affected by Earth's magnetosphere, and the satellite survived the event. It did give scientists some information along the way. Now, should a solar flare issue a coronal mass ejection, the strength of the Carrington event again, and should that CME be pointed straight at Earth when it flares, it could wipe out electronics and communications and possibly disrupt power supply over most of the Earth. Anything having to do with lines that run through the air and transformers. Let us hope such a thing does not occur again in our lifetimes. We have a playlist of episodes for this day in history, as well as a playlist of single subjects called How About That? And words of the day in a playlist called There's a Word for That, and I'll leave links to those playlists for you. Today's song is How Can You Mend a Broken Heart by the Bee Gees, written by Barry and Robin Gibb and produced by Robert Stigwood. The Bee Gees, consisting of brothers Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb, actually started making music together as long ago as 1955. It wasn't easy, but they were determined to pursue a successful music career. They really began to make it in the 1960s with the New York mining disaster of 1941, which took off in 1967. In 1969, they began to experience a little internal conflict, a sense of rivalry within the group, a little jealousy maybe, such that Barry and Maurice parted ways professionally in December of 1969. Less than a year later, in August of 1970, they made up and settled their differences and got back together. In this spirit of reconciliation, they wrote the song, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? They initially offered it to Andy Williams, but also recorded it themselves in January of 1971. As of August 28, 1971, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart by the Bee Gees began its fourth week at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart by the Bee Gees. Link in the description. Alrighty, well, we definitely have some outtakes today, and they'll be right after this. And then we'll go into the outro. I don't think there's anything else I need to say right now. Y'all have a beautiful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. I got something in my eye. It feels like a cat hair, but I don't have cats anymore. First known use of the word Dysarthria is in first known use of the... Besides that, Saturn has lots of moons. Why did we say that? We don't need to say that. We just said that. All right. Let's just make that go away. Now I'm recording this and I've got my document up, but it covers part of the screen, so I don't know what's going on in the screen while I'm talking. Editing on the fly. What is that called? Alrighty, y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with the link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page called No Really. And you can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I could think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.